I don't know how to explain what happened to me inside that house, but I'll try. In Lima, Peru, there's a building so feared that locals cross the street to avoid walking in front of it. They whisper that if you spend a night inside, you won't survive. Some say you'll die. Others say you'll lose your mind. They call it Casa Matusita. Most people treat it as just another urban legend. But I didn't. I thought I could handle it. Until I went inside, and now I'll never be the same again. It was late evening when I stood outside Casa Matusita. The building didn't look extraordinary. Just an old, yellowish structure standing near the busy streets of Lima. But there was something wrong about it. The windows were grimy, like no light had passed through in decades. The air outside was colder than it should have been. And despite the sounds of traffic all around, when I stood in front of that house, it was silent. I'd heard the stories. A man once went insane after being locked inside overnight. An entire family was supposedly slaughtered within its walls. People who dared to enter claimed they saw figures moving in the windows, even though the building was supposed to be empty. I didn't believe it. At least, not until I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The stench hit me first. Rotting wood, damp stone, and something sharper, like blood that had been spilled years ago but never fully cleaned. The floorboards creaked under my feet, even when I wasn't moving. It was as if the house was breathing, exhaling groans and sighs with every step. I told myself to stay calm, to prove it was all just myths. But with every second, that house felt less like a building and more like a trap. I set up my flashlight and started exploring the first floor. The walls were peeling, paint bubbling in strange patterns. When I ran my hand across one, I swear it pulsed beneath my fingertips like a heartbeat. That's when I heard it. A laugh. Not a full laugh, just a broken giggle. It was high-pitched, childlike. It echoed through the hallway, even though I was completely alone. I froze. The beam of my flashlight shook across the walls, but the hallway was empty. Then, something moved. At the far end of the hall, a shadow darted across the doorway. Too fast for me to make out, but big enough to know it wasn't just a trick of the light. I tried to calm myself down, whispering out loud, "It's just your imagination, just nerves." But then, a voice whispered back, from the dark, repeating my words. Exactly. I pushed deeper inside, up the staircase. Every step echoed far too loud, like the sound wasn't mine, but someone or something was following just a step behind me. On the second floor, the atmosphere changed. The air felt thick, suffocating, and the temperature dropped so fast that my breath came out in fog. There was a room at the end of the hall, its door half open. Against every instinct screaming inside me, I pushed it wider. The room was empty, except for a table in the center, and on it, plates. 6 cracked porcelain plates, each smeared with what looked like old, dried blood. Suddenly, I smelled something cooking. It smelled stew, meat. The smell filled the room as if someone was preparing a meal right there. Then the plates weren't empty anymore. They were full. Steaming food appeared out of nowhere, the steam curling into shapes, faces, twisted and distorted, opening mouths wide as if screaming. I stumbled back, choking. The food turned black. Mold spread over it in seconds, and the screaming faces dissolved back into the air. The longer I stayed, the harder it was to think clearly. Whispers filled my ears, some in Spanish, some in languages I couldn't understand. They told me things, terrible things. I could feel them pressing against my skull, like they were trying to crawl inside. My flashlight flickered, and in the moment of darkness, I saw them. Figures, dozens of them, standing in the room with me, some headless, some with faces melted and twisted, all staring directly at me. When the light came back, the room was empty again, but I could still feel their eyes on me. I tried to leave. I turned back toward the stairs, but they weren't there. The hallway stretched on and on, impossibly long, bending in ways it shouldn't. Doors appeared on either side, each one creaking open slowly as I walked past. Behind each door I caught glimpses, a man with his throat slit, a woman screaming as she burned, a child cowering under a table as shadows closed in. I ran. But no matter how far I went, the hallway never ended. Finally, I stumbled into a room that looked different. There was a mirror, old, cracked, taller than me. I stopped because my reflection wasn't moving. It stood perfectly still, staring at me with a grin I didn't recognize. And then it reached out. A pale, rotted hand pushed through the glass. I felt its fingers close around my wrist, ice cold and strong. I screamed, pulling back, but the harder I struggled, the stronger it gripped. Behind my reflection, more figures appeared. Pressing against the glass, their faces distorted, desperate to get out. The mirror began to splinter, black cracks spreading across it like veins. I thought it would shatter and release them, and then it let me go, just like that. The reflection smiled wider, and the mirror went black. I bolted. Somehow, I found the stairs again. I don't even remember how I made it outside, but when I stumbled back into the street, gasping for air, people were staring at me. One man whispered under his breath, "You went in and came out alive?" But I didn't feel alive, not completely, because sometimes when I close my eyes, I still see that reflection, grinning, waiting, patient, and I know. One day it's going to come back for me. If you ever find yourself in Lima, don't go near La Casa Matusita. And if you do, don't go inside, because you won't come back out the same if you come back out at all. If you enjoyed this chilling true story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because there's plenty more creepy stories to come. If you have a true story like this, please share it. Maybe your story could make a good video. Until next time, sleep well.